Welcome to the Two-Wheeled Rider YouTube channel. My name is Mario Orsini. I'm wearing my Two-Wheeled Rider t-shirt. Check them out in the description below. Anyway, welcome to the 5th video of the Alaska Debrief series. In today's video, we're going to talk about all the gear I brought along on my trip to Alaska. So, as I have in most of the Debrief series videos, I do have some notes here so I can refer back to. So you see me looking at that, I'm just cheating so I don't forget anything. As I talked about in earlier videos, I'm not going to go over all my riding gear that I wore. I'll just touch on it briefly. If you want more details on that, I'll link it up here to last year's video where you can also see what Kristen was wearing because none of my riding gear changed. I stuck with the Alpine Stars Belize boots. They are waterproof, had no problems out of them. I stuck with the Alpine Stars Valparaiso 2 riding gear, and I only brought the rain liner with me. I did not bring the thermal liner because I brought some other layers, and I'll talk more about that here in just a couple of minutes to wear underneath. And I brought 2 pairs of gloves. I brought my old SMX2 Airs. They have been with me to 49 states and 5 Canadian provinces, and it's probably time for them to be retired. And I also brought the Rage Dry Star gloves. They're more of an intermediate glove. You can wear them in hot conditions. They're a little bit better in cooler conditions than my other gloves were. And they're also 100% waterproof, no problems out of those. In addition to that, I wore my Shoei X14 helmet with a Penlock shield. And the only other thing I really brought along that was different, I borrowed this from Kristen. It's an Alpine Stars neck warmer or whatever. This came in really handy on some of the cooler mornings when it was down in the 40s, so I might have to get one of these for myself. So let's talk about luggage for a minute. Obviously on the sides of the bike I have the KTM hard cases, which if you bought this as a US spec model, came standard, so I've kept those. I also have the top case on the bike with the backrest, but the backrest didn't do me any good. Didn't do Kristen any good since she didn't come along on the trip. This is the KTM quick release tank bag. I've done a video on it. Brought this along with me, and then on the back, because I didn't have a passenger, I went ahead and threw on this Nelson Rig tail pack. I've had this pack for years. It is expandable. I'll talk about more about it in a minute, but that is the luggage I brought along on the trip. Just one more quick thing on the luggage. For the saddlebags, I do have the KTM bag liners, which are awesome. I've talked about those in previous videos. They drop right down into place, and then when you get to your hotel or wherever you're staying for the night, just grab the bag liner out and carry it into the room. So just a few other things I want to talk about before I get into the bike specific gear that I brought on the trip. I follow the rule of 5 when it comes to packing, which I talk about in my book, Motorcyclist Guide to Travel, which basically means any trip 5 days or more, I pack as if I'm going 5 days, and then I just do laundry every 5th day or so, depending on how that works out. So I brought along 5 t-shirts, 5 pairs of riding socks, a couple pair of ankle socks, because I also brought a pair of sneakers along. It's 5 plus 1 when it comes to underwear, so 6 pairs of underwear, just in case you have that accident along the way. Pair of jeans, pair of shorts, pair of swim trunks. I also brought, I wear a layer underneath my riding gear itself, so it's like a layer of spandex pants, and same thing with the top. I also have more of a thermal type pant that I brought along for the colder mornings, and then later on in the trip I realized I needed an extra layer up top, so I stopped at Walmart and like $10 got an extra thermal long sleeve to bring along. But that's pretty much it, aside from I also had a long sleeve t-shirt I brought with me, a ball cap, a pair of sunglasses. Also, because you guys know I filmed my trip, I brought along all kinds of camera gear, my laptop and all those sorts of things, which may not be pertinent to you, so I'm not going to go into great detail because if you're going to shoot videos, well, you've got your own gear pack you're going to take. Be sure to bring along your chargers for your electronic devices. You're obviously going to need those. I use a small USB charger that has 4 USB plug-ins. It plugs into a wall outlet that I always take with me to make charging at the end of the day. Whether it's your camera gear or your Bluetooth headset, you've got plenty of wall outlets in case you get somewhere that doesn't have many wall outlets. Well, you just turn 1 into 4. Obviously, I brought my passport because I was going out of the country. I also have one of the passport cards, which will get you into Mexico, Canada, and I think Bermuda and a couple other places. That was kind of as a backup in case I lost my passport. I brought cash along, and I also brought 2 credit cards and 1 debit card. I kind of had the spectrum covered. I had an American Express and MasterCard credit card, and then my Visa debit card, which I didn't use in Canada, but I had with me as just like a spare in case the other 2 didn't work for whatever reason. And one other thing I brought along was a pack of stickers in case I ran into Two-Wheeled Rider fans or somebody that might potentially be a Two-Wheeled Rider fan. So I didn't run out of those, but I did bring a nice thick stack of them, and I gave away most of them on the trip. Now the first big thing I want to cover is a change I made to my toolkit. In all previous trips, I have just taken the KTM factory toolkit and supplemented it with like some zip ties and stuff like that. But I decided it was time for an upgrade, and I went with the Cruise Tools Road Tech KT1 toolkit, which is specifically made for KTM motorcycles. Basically, it comes with the sockets and wrenches and stuff that are going to be most prevalent on KTMs. They do make these kits for other manufacturers. They got them for Harley Davidson. I don't know if it's a Honda kit or Japanese kit. They have a bunch of different kits. I want to show you the differences between these two toolkits and why I decided to make the change. Now, the one thing you're going to notice right off the bat is that the Cruise Tools toolkit is a much beefier toolkit than the KTM toolkit. That said, I still think this is an excellent factory toolkit. It's not bad at all. This one has some additional upgrades that I really like, but this one does win one category big time, and you'll see what I mean. So the other thing, this one is a roll. So if we untie this, we'll be able, I've got it upside down, we'll be able to roll it out and see its contents. This one is just a Velcro leather pouch. We'll go ahead and pull all the tools out and I'll show you what's inside. All right, so looking at the factory kit, you do have a nice set of pliers with built-in cutters. You've got some wrenches that are going to fit 99% of the fasteners on the bike. They're not bad wrenches, they're not great. We also have a Phillips screwdriver here. We've got some sockets that go on to the end of this wrench, which you can snap them on either end. You can snap them on the short end or the long end. One thing it has that my new toolkit does not have is a bottle opener, which is nice. And then you also have the big wrenches here, and I'm going to talk more about this later. There's a couple other little additional things in here. You know, you get some Torx head bits and stuff like that. Overall, like I said, not a bad toolkit. But the quality of the Cruise Tools toolkit is much better. They went ahead and put some electrical tape in. You've got all the Torx bits you could possibly need. I believe this is thread lock right here. This screwdriver here, you have Phillips, or actually we got the straight bit on. You also have a small Phillips bit. And then if we flip this around, we've got a larger end Phillips bit and a larger end flathead on this end. Moving down the row here, we've got all the different size Allens we could possibly need. These zip ties and safety wire actually came in the kit itself, which was really nice. I think I added a few more in. You do have a tire pressure gauge, just a stick operated one. We've got vice grips, which we don't have in the other kit, which also double as a set of pliers. We've got a crescent wrench, which I hate these things, but whatever, we've got it. We also have some higher quality wrenches, and then this down here will serve as your, this is the 32 millimeter, which is the axle bolt for the front and rear. I don't know that I have a 27 millimeter on the bike, but keep in mind this is made for all KTM bikes, so it may fit some other models. If you're wondering what this is up here, I brought a spare clip-on style master link in case I were to have chain issues. You can pick these up for just a handful of dollars, and not a bad idea if you have a chain drive bike, in case you were to have an issue with your chain. You may also want to carry a spare chain, but this will get you through in a pinch. And then finally we have this ratchet set down here. It's a small ratchet, it does have an extension, and you have an 8, 10, and 13 millimeter socket. I gotta be honest, I was a little skeptical of this ratchet, but man does it work. I mean, it's got a lot of clicks per turn. I had to use it to disassemble the bike at one point on the trip. It worked great. So let me talk about the major issue this kit has where it loses out to the KTM kit. My problem, this is nice and chrome plated, it looks really nice. I could not get enough leverage using this wrench to loosen up my rear axle when I needed to adjust the chain. So that's part of the reason I had to go to Advance to borrow a torque wrench. Whereas the factory kit, it's got this little wrench here, and I used it great last year. But what it has is this leverage bar that goes on it. And you can see how much longer it is than the Cruise Tools kit. So I'm going to steal this one out of the KTM kit and put it in this one. That way I don't have any more issues if I need to adjust my chain while I'm out in the middle of a motorcycle trip. Now, some other things you might want to steal out of your KTM toolkit is the bottle opener. If you like to drink beer, it's probably not a bad idea to have. Also, some of these Torx, they will fit this socket or this ratchet set that comes in the Cruise Tools kit, so it might not be a bad idea if you don't want to mess around with the standard L-shaped Torx. But otherwise, this kit is definitely an upgrade, but anyone with a KTM, I would recommend stealing this out of your factory kit and putting it into this one. The only other downside I can think about with this kit is it will not fit under my seat like this one would. Now that is assuming you've deleted your canister. If your canister's there, neither one of them are going to fit under your seat. Also, the material this thing's made out of, it has started to rub through. It hasn't rubbed all the way through yet. That said, this material is not much better, and there's a couple spots where it's starting to rub through. You're just going to have that really in any toolkit pouch, especially if you're putting it up in a top case or wherever. If it's rolling around or rubbing on other things, it's eventually going to wear through, but no big deal. All right, so I want to move back up here to the front for a minute. Many of you probably already know and probably already seen the video about how I installed my GPS. I do have a Garmin GPS installed on the bike. I had a couple blips with it where it didn't work there quite well. I had to unhook the battery and plug it back in. Everything worked fine. I take a couple RAM mounts with me for camera mounts. You know, that kind of stuff's up to you. This bag though, this is kind of my catch-all bag. When I'd stop, I'd throw my gloves in. I kept my baseball cap and my sunglasses in there. If I was going through border crossings that day, I'd throw that kind of stuff in there. But it's just kind of my catch-all bag. Overall, this bag's been fine, but the mechanism to lock and unlock it off the fuel tank got stuck a few times, so much so that I had to grab like a wrench or a screwdriver to pull the cable pull on it to get it loosened up. I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit. I wonder if it just got some dirt and debris in there and maybe lube it a little bit better. This thing is also expandable, which I never had to do on this trip. If you need some additional space, you can see it pops up even further. Overall, the bag, you just heard it click into place. I guess I just had it sitting there. Overall, it was fine, but I just wanted to make you aware of the quick release mechanism, which wasn't so quick a few times, and took a little bit longer to get it off there to fill up the bike. Also up here on the front of the bike, I do use one of the cramp busters, which I know I have cruise control in here, but sometimes you get into twisty sections of road, you can't really set the cruise on, so this just allows you to hold your hand in place, stretch it out a little bit. They're like $10. I usually have them in my Amazon influencer store if you ever want to pick one up. There's a wide one and a skinny one. I prefer the skinny one, especially on this bike, and there's also different diameters, so if you're running bigger grips, there's one to basically fit every style. All right, so next up, the rear tail pack. This thing started out zipped in. You can see I have it expanded now. I undid the zipper, mainly so I could haul all of Kristen's Starbucks mugs home. The way I have it fixed to the bike, I just have the two straps run underneath the seat, and they simply buckle in. So it was easy to get on and off the bike. There's all kinds of storage compartments up here. I've had this bag for years. I don't even know if they still make it. I usually kept my second set of gloves back here. I carried a spare liter of oil, kept that in here. Also kept my Nelson Rig half cover, UV 2000 half cover. I've done a couple videos on these, love this cover. Kept that in the bag. And then just like miscellaneous stuff. If I had to peel a layer off or thought I might need an extra layer, that went into the bag. The other nice thing about this is it served as a decent little backrest for longer sections of road I was riding. This has been a great bag. Over in this side pocket, same thing with this one. For some reason, I just keep them on the right side pocket. I keep the rain cover, never had to use them. If you get in some light rain or even heavy rain, as long as you're moving, you should have no problems with this thing leaking. If you're getting into hard downpours and you're gonna be going through towns and stuff, or you're gonna be slowing down, I'd recommend throwing the rain covers on, and then it's 100% waterproof. A few other things I brought along that are just stuffed in here, toenail clippers, and some zip ties. Bringing extra zip ties is never a bad idea. I know my toolkit had some, but we put some in the side bag here too. One other thing I forgot is I did bring some bug spray. Did need that in a few cases. I'm sure there's some other stuff hidden in here too, but for the most part, it's just a nice tail pack that you can put a lot of your stuff in. And now I'll show you what I had packed under my rear seat. So underneath the rear seat, same kit I've been carrying for like 5 years now. It's a stop and go tubeless puncture kit. Inside the kit, you do have, be careful opening that. You've got all the tools you need to repair a puncture. You also have the plugs, and then my favorite part is it comes with a little air compressor. So even if you don't have a flat and you just need to adjust tire pressure on your bike, this thing's great. You can plug it in. If you have a power outlet, you can plug it in that way. It also comes with alligator clips if you want to plug it directly onto your battery. Also underneath here, I have my registration insurance card. I keep them in little baggies just to keep them safe should it rain hard and anything get in there. I've never had rain get in there, but it's just a safety thing. I did bring the cable if I wanted to lock my helmet on this way, but I'll show you how I normally lock my helmet on. Also have a 32mm socket under here should you need to adjust your chain and need to crack loose the rear axle. This is the size you need. It's not always available at hardware stores or auto stores. This in combination with a breaker bar or a torque wrench will be all you need in order to adjust your rear chain. And then also hidden way down in here, I don't know if you can see this wire. This is for my battery tender. I keep that plugged in. Not the battery tender plugged in, but the pigtail running. So if the bike's going to be sitting for a few weeks, I can just plug it directly in without having to access the battery. I just have some green duct tape, a couple small rolls. You can pick this up at Walmart. It doesn't take up much space, and you can just tuck it under your seat like I have. Those are all the goodies I have hidden under the rear seat, though I did have one more thing under here which ended up in the top case later on, and I'll show you in a minute. Alright guys, so now we'll move into the top case, which was much better organized before, but a lot of stuff's come out, like some of my camera gear and drone and things of that nature. So, bottle of water. Again, this is where I keep my factory toolkit. So, some additional things I packed in my toolkit is I always bring along some Honda Bond. It's just high temp silicone should you need to, fix something that's leaking. This is some of the best stuff available. Side stand puck if you're parked in a hot parking lot and you're worried about your bike falling over, or you're parked in the dirt or sloppy conditions, this will help. I always bring along some towels with me to clean my face shield, clean my bike off, or clean my hands off. Paper towel. Also just a quick hack on paper towels. If you're at a gas station, always grab a few of them and just stuff them in like the side of your tank bag or something. That way you don't have to get your good towels all dirty if you just need to like wipe away some greasy stuff or whatever, if you got to do a little maintenance on your bike while you're on the road. I lost one of my valve caps along the way, so I stopped and got this valve cap kit. No, nothing major, but I have it. Always take a can of spray polish to keep my windshield, lights, and face shield on my helmet clean. I started out with another can. I bought this one at Yukon Yamaha, I think, along the way. Stuff seems to work fine, but I started with a smaller can, but this is the only one they had available, and stuff works pretty good. I did not start with a parts cleaner, but I ended up picking some up along the way to clean up some sections of the bike. If you can, get the non-flammable stuff so you don't have to worry about it. If you spray it on hot parts, you don't have to worry about it catching on fire, but this is the stuff I always use around the shop. And this is actually going to come out of the top case because I don't normally take stuff like this, and it's going to go over on my shelf. Now, I've talked about this little tool before. It's from Motion Pro. I think they call it the slack guide or something. Anyway, it's just a really nifty way to measure your chain slack on your bike. Normally, I keep it under the seat of the bike, but I checked it the last day just to make sure before I took off, and it just ended up in the top case instead of popping the rear seat back off. But these are cool little tools. I always have them available in my Amazon influencer store if you ever want to pick one up. I keep one on the bike at all times, and then I also keep one here in the shop. I was talking about helmet locks earlier. This is what I normally use if I'm going to lock my helmet on. Let me get it's a 4-digit combo on it. Pops open like this. This is a steel cable. That way you could lock multiple bikes onto your helmet if you want. These are always in my influencer store too, but this is something I've been using 5-6 years now. These things work like a charm. I want to say this is around 27, and if you want this piece, it's like maybe another $8 or something, but you can use it for your helmet. The nice thing about having the cable too, though, is that you could run this through the sleeve of your jacket and lock your jacket on your bike if you wanted to, in addition to your helmet. So just something to consider. Another thing I carry is one of these small little LED flashlights. I'm not going to shine it in the camera. You can pick these up for like $1 at Walmart. Obviously, I got mine in orange, but you might want to consider getting it in a bright color, especially if you're going to put it in a top case or saddle bag. That way you can find it pretty quickly when you need it. Now, even though my toolkit comes with thread lock, I've always had thread lock on the bike, so if you ever need to take a fastener off that needs to be thread locked back on, I normally keep blue. I know, some fasteners will call for red, but this will work in a pinch if you need it for when you normally need red, but most of the time you're just going to need a medium strength, so blue will fit the bill. I think I talked about it earlier. I did bring some additional valve bolt gaskets in case I were to have another one fail. I ended up not having any problems, but I had a couple of spare ones, so I just threw those in a baggie. Two-wheeled rider stickers. I think I've talked about this before. This is I had a buddy of mine make this for me. If I ever want to put it up on the center stand in a soft parking lot, this thing works great. And then last but certainly not least, my Rand McNally Road Atlas. Yeah, I've got a GPS. Yeah, I've got a computer. Yeah, I've got an iPhone. But this thing never breaks, and for $8, it's one of the best buys out there. Also, one other thing you're not going to see in here that was actually in here was chain lube, and that's because I was down to one bottle, and we needed it for the race bikes yesterday. So definitely take some chain lube along if you've got a chain-driven bike. And then the final thing I packed with me to keep the bike going on the trip cannot be packed on the bike, but it's packed right up here, and that's knowledge. I can't overstate the importance of knowing your bike, knowing how it works, knowing how it comes apart, and understanding how it works. You know, I had 2 minor issues on this trip, but I didn't freak out and I didn't cost myself hundreds of dollars or days of time trying to get it to a shop. I was able to fix it myself. So, you know, I know not everyone's going to do their work, but you know, you should at least study up on your owner's manual. I always recommend picking up a service manual. Study it. Understand how the bike works, understand how it functions, understand where things are on it, and that can save you a ton of money and a ton of time and ensure that you have a great motorcycle trip. So anyway, that's probably 99% of what I took with me on the trip. I probably missed something. You guys might even have some ideas for what you take in your own toolkit or gear bag along with you on long motorcycle trips. And keep in mind, mine changes. It's going to change over time as I find better items to bring along with me and maybe get rid of some items. And it's also going to change dependent on the trip. A trip to Alaska, I'm probably going to take more stuff with me, more tools and things with me than I would for like an overnight trip somewhere. So it's just something to keep in mind. This is what I took for me, for this bike, for this trip, and it's going to change in the future. But I hope you guys got some good knowledge out of this video, got some good insight out of this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. If you have any questions about stuff I went over, maybe some recommendations of your own, let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.